Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. T, and I'm back at it again with another electrifying interview with our grassroots entrepreneurs. As you know, I have a background in finance, and I also have a business consulting practice where I help people by empowering them to recognize their entrepreneurial vision. And today, we have very special guest. He is an award winning human rights advocate, philanthropist, the founder of the Gentleman's Course, a nonprofit and he's dedicated to educating the youth and human trafficking victims on etiquette, human rights, and fashion young men, continuing the legacy of his grandfather, the legendary B.B. King, through King Collection fashion brand. He's also a United States Marine Corps veteran, and he has a passion for advocacy and empowerment. He has inspired change in countless lives. Please help me welcoming Christopher King. Hello, hello. How are you doing?
I'm outstanding in yourself. Great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to have you here today. So, we're just going to jump right in. I have a few icebreaker questions for you. Um, can you tell me a little bit about your childhood and where you grew up?
Oh, sure, no problem. I know a lot of your viewers or my viewers are potentially wondering the same thing as well. So, born in Dallas, Texas. So I'm a Cowboy fan. And then shortly after, probably about the age of 8 or 9, we moved to Georgia, Savannah, Georgia, over in Old Chatham County. And then that was where I spent the remaining of my years through high school, middle school, elementary, and then ultimately joining the military.
Okay. Yes. And this is the next question. So, we're going to be more present tense because that's a little bit about your past. What is the biggest challenge that you face right now?
That is a very good question. Um, One of the biggest challenges that I face right now today is honestly finding quality people that can commit to collaborate with. You meet a lot of people at networking events that have an idea, have a vision, but they lack great qualities to commit to understanding how to actually partner. Um, a lot of times we'll find people that just want to push what they want, their goals, their initiative, but they don't have the oomph to understand that you got to give in order to get. And even biblically speaking, it's better to give than it is to receive. So you don't get nothing if you don't give nothing. So I think if people understand the ideologies behind giving to others before they go to asking what they want for themselves, they will get a lot further in life.
Okay. All right. All right. So, what is one dream that you have for the future, and where do you think you'll be in the next 10 years?
Considering I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary right now with one of my charities, seeing a vision of where I would be in the next 10 years, just analyzing what I've been able to accomplish in the last 10 years with my baby boomer charity, I foresee us actually no longer being in schools, but having our own schools. That's one of the biggest goals is to educate and always educate youth and in the best platforms possible. And we're developing right now our online courses. And for those that don't know, the Gentleman's Course is one of my baby boomer charity where we educate etiquette, human rights, and human trafficking prevention. So we want to make sure etiquette instruction, general manners, is put back into the educational system. And this was done many, many years ago in African American or dark skinned communities. I don't want to just say black because dark skinned communities, it encompasses anybody that's of dark skin. And we were able to educate our own kids and our own youth and our own communities manners and etiquette and instruction and how to speak in proper tones. And we got very far away from that, when we gained the desegregation of schools. That's one of the biggest problems. So I think in the next 10 years, we want to be able to build out our brick and mortar, have our locked-in land building for the Gentlemen's Academy, and be able to put all those three pillars, mainly human rights and etiquette instruction. Human trafficking is something we've been dealing with for years, and modern day slavery is going to be a combatant forever. But I think if we put how to teach people just how to be kind back in education, we will get a lot further in our school systems and our districts abroad and local.
That is really powerful. I got a lot of questions, but I don't want to stray off topic. As a fellow U.S. Marine Corps veteran, how did your military experience shape your leadership style and your commitment to human rights and DEI?
I mean, you already know the answer to that question. You know, the Marine Corps, we just built different. You know, we're built different in the Corps. We're trained different, and a lot of people don't understand the tormenting that we go through to break us. And there's a breaking process to get people to understand, or get us to understand, of what it takes to actually lead, because you
Right.
have to learn to follow. And so many of us go in boot camp already thinking we're big dog. We got this. We on top, and that's not how it works. You know, we had to be broken as young Marines and then built up, and that
Mm-hmm.
takes courage and perseverance and a commitment like no other. And that's one of my favorite words is perseverance, because it literally takes perseverance to accomplish um, those I would say 90 days. But you know, I'm a Paris Island recruit myself, so I came out of the East Coast, and you know,
That's fun.
that crucible is different, you know, than it is on the West Coast, you know, because we got real woods over here and swamps and foolishness, you know, them live fire exercises. It does train you differently. Um, and I was Fox Company, Second Battalion, so I was right across from the chow hall, and that's one of the biggest pains because the food is right there, and you still can't get none. So it was torture, but teaching you how to shred. So the military helped embed basic leadership skills from the grassroots foundation of how to understand to take orders, how to be led, how to understand instruction, how to focus. These are some of the things that people miss out on in general society that the Marine Corps is able to teach. Those basic disciplines: focus, how to listen, how to understand leadership and what that is, and how to be led, because we're led amongst the other 75, 80 recruits in our battalion. And then they pick particular ones to be leaders. And then you have squads, then you have the squad leader. And what that hierarchy is, when you're talking about the pecking order of different people, and then you have the individual squads in the battalion, you know, that report to the squad leader or the squad captain. Then you have the squad. It's the structure is meant intentionally to
Mm-hmm.
teach us how to understand proper structure when you're talking about dissemination of roles and responsibilities within an organization. And a lot of people, they miss that basic understanding of why military people are so sought after, because when we come into a regular world, we understand the difference between a supervisor, a manager, and a director, and a regional director, and then a CEO, and so on and so forth, because we're taught that basic structure in boot camp. When we're broken, you know, we're not giving those luxuries. So you know, I'm very proud of the military and my experiences, considering I didn't join the Marine Corps voluntarily. It wasn't something that was just a choice that I had. You know, I made some bad choices as a teenager, so the judge was my directing path uh, to the military. You know, they had in Georgia, they had this thing called First Offenders Act, and it was my first major offense. So I got arrested with possession with intent to distribute of a major product. Say that, and that's what put me in the military. It's either military or jail, one of the two. So here we are today. You know, I'm 42 years old, and I can say a different person, different person.
It's a blessing for growth and change. Solomon Denny said, "What a great man with purpose."
Yeah, that's one of my brothers. Literally, you know, Solomon Denny has he's a security company, and he does my personal security when I'm out, when I'm doing motivational speaking engagements. People are like, "You a Marine? What you need security for?" I say, "Trust me, you'd rather deal with him than deal with me. So he keeps me, safe, because if these hands get loose, you got bigger problems. let me calm. Let me stay on the nice side. Let me stay happy. And it's
Yeah.
crazy. I watched a movie on Netflix the other day. I don't know if you've seen Rebel Rage. Have you seen it yet?
Mm-mm. No, I
Oh my
haven't.
God. Yeah, it covers a McMap instructor who basically is a new age version of Rambo without all the violence and killing. But a black man is cast, and it's a good movie. But thank you, Doc. Thank you, Solomon, for the shout out, brother. I really appreciate your service.
Yes. Well, on to our next question. What are some of the most significant challenges that you faced in your human trafficking prevention work, and how have you overcome them?
Mm. So this is one that honestly I can't even say I'm overcoming, because it is the biggest challenge. When we're working with youth, specifically youth that have been victimized through human trafficking, and we try to give them experiences to help sway their mindset and cultural upbringing to understand that there is a good side of society and it still exists, and how to be a part of it. We risk them actually running back to the same problems that they were rescued from. That's one of the biggest things we have to combat is the fleeing um, attempts. So when we take them out from the group homes, or we take them out from their safe houses, and we take them out to social events and things of that nature to let them engage socially and just have a good time, we run risk of them actually fleeing and running away to get back to the comfort zone, because they don't want to work, they don't want to self-sustain, they don't want to be independent. They want to just be told what to do. And it's hard to break that cycle when a person has been traumatized by this kind of leadership for for days or years, but it becomes a comfortable state of life for them. And that's what society doesn't understand, is breaking traumas and breaking habitual lifestyles that a person, even though it's bad, this has been their lifestyle
I know.
and that's all they know. So when we're trying to break that and teach them a better and different way, that's one of the biggest problems is the fleeing and the running away, and we're trained not to even chase or pursue, because you try to chase and pursue, you might get shot, because they might be running to a trafficker who's waiting for them in the bush line, etc. So it's sad, the world we live in, to even have to deal with such issues. Honestly, it's truly sad, but somebody has to do the work. Um, so even though I can sit here and say, yeah, I'm trained to handle combatants and things of that nature, that doesn't mean I'm supposed to. That doesn't mean that it's a smart thing to do, because I can't have firearms around the youth when we're transporting them. That's against the rules. So ultimately, this is all I got, um, and it's just not a safe space. So when you ask what is the biggest problem, is having to deal with those types of situations, and knowing I want to pursue, but we can't, for safety of the rest of the kids in the van. You can't protect everyone, you can't save them all, and it's sad, because how do you fix it? And it's a question we're going to always ask ourselves: how do we fix that?
I'm so curious how you got into this line of work.
So, um, when you're talking about, let's address the elephant in the room. So the topic, from royalty to human rights, and coming off tour buses and working with my grandfather, because you go from drug dealer to military to celebrity manager and fashion stylist to now advocate. I was booked for a fashion show in Tampa, Florida, for an organization that houses youth that have been victimized through human trafficking. And when I found out what the youth were, or for better words, the models in the show were youth that had been victimized by human trafficking. And the purpose was to raise funds to further their enrichment, their education, etc. I gave the money back, hosted the event for free, and began volunteering for that organization and learning more about what it was and how bad it was. Because ultimately in the military, when we're in combat, we're trained on different types of topics, but ultimately we weren't a part of it, right? We didn't participate in it. So learning that Florida was a hub, learning that Florida was number 3 out of all states, and this is just reported that people's lives were being taken. This is what we were trained to stop. This is what we were trained to combat, to protect humanity, to protect lives. I saw it as an opportunity that this might actually give me the fulfillment that I seek, because making money, being in fashion, being on TV, being in magazines, and all that stuff is fun. It's great. But honestly, I wasn't fulfilled with it. And I found myself bored at times. And, me and even Mr. Solomon Denny, we've had those conversations, because when I built out the gentleman's course, he was there from day one when I built it out, and he never left my side. And he was like, I got you, King, because he understood exactly what my mission was and what I wanted to accomplish. But I still had to make a appearance, because my name is still my name. My platform is still my platform. And that doesn't change the support systems that I had. And I don't call them fans. They're support systems, because they support everything that I'm doing. And those people that love me from a fashion perspective, they donate to my charity this day. So my support systems truly believed in what we were building and my vision. And here we are today, 10 years later, still thriving and growing, and almost across the entire state of Florida. So I'm grateful.
Wow. Okay. That was a lot to take in. Thank you for that question. The next question I have for you is, what role does fashion and etiquette play in helping victims of human trafficking reintegrate into society and regain their sense of dignity?
So, of course, that's a big question. So, for the audiences here, I'm not going to repeat it. That's a lot, but I'm going to jump into it, because ultimately, it's our core mission. Our slogan for our charity is, "We change our youth, they will change our future." So let's go take the first portion. We change our youth. So we're talking about people and youth that have been victimized. When I came up with the program, it was designed, and still is designed, to teach those that have been harmed by human beings how to properly re-engage human beings. One of the biggest problems we face is, how do you engage people when people have committed the heinous crimes against you? You don't trust people. You don't trust human beings. You don't trust kids, adults. It didn't matter the job title, because if you look at most human trafficking cases, the people that are arrested are people that we trust: OBGYNs, police officers, firefighters, lawyers, doctors, school teachers, etc. People that we trust. These are not your local drug dealers or local thugs that are arrested. These are or office-related crimes, or criminals, excuse me. And then the homes are not in ghettos. They're in luxurious neighborhoods, gated communities, etc. These are the homes that they're raiding, finding these kids. Case in
Wow.
point, look at Diddy. Look at what the mess he got himself into. Talking about the upper wealthy and the Epstein cases, and you look at all these people. They're not in ghettos. They're in prominently wealthy neighborhoods, or successful neighborhoods, suburba. And this is the problem, because they do this literally right in our face.
Wow.
So if you don't expect it to be there. So when I wrote the curriculum, I took simple things that I already knew. So my first trip to the White House was not to receive an award; it was with my grandfather, and he was there performing for the sitting president at the time, and it was a great experience. But when we had dinner that evening, of course, I'm looking at a fine dining setting, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. Give me a fork and a butter knife, and I'm gonna work it out. And I had to get educated very quickly. And my grandfather helped teach me about fine dining and those and manners and etiquette. So when you're dealing with a person such as BB King, he understands protocols. And that was my first experience of learning what protocols were and how to engage people from different statures of life, but then also situations. So all this knowledge that I had, I took it and I wrote on a piece of paper, and I started teaching kids the simplest forms: how to tie a tie, simple introductions, the power of a handshake. That's it. And then I expanded on that, because as kids began to latch on to that information and grow, it allowed me the opportunity to actually teach them more. So we came up with a basic program and an advanced program, and all these tools help engage youth that have been victimized to regain social skills and knowing who to trust and why you should trust different individuals, etc., with different perspectives of your life, and how to grow and be a actual uh, uh, giving person in society. So it's a lot to take in, but it takes time. And go back to my favorite word, perseverance, because it's not a it's not a quick process. It's very slow.
Yes. Okay. How do you stay motivated during tough times, and what strategies do you use to overcome obstacles?
Staying motivated, perseverance, self motivation. If we don't, here's the thing: nobody's going to clap for you if you can't clap for yourself.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's days where I'm alone, and I mean, I'm really alone in this fight. I wake up, I get in the car and I'm traveling down the road and I get to the school or the group home. I'm alone. Ain't nobody in the car. And then as an empath, when I receive all this energy and all this information and the stories and the experiences, and I'm receiving this and I'm listening to these victims, how do I offload? How do I disperse this energy I just received on
Mm,
top of still having to deal with my own personal life?
right.
And that's the part that people don't grasp, that the mental instability that we self-inflict to put ourselves through to help another person heal. So I have to find opportunities in different sources myself. So I do have therapy, I do have my own counselors, etc., that I offload to. But then something that's also therapeutic, I offload into writing. So I've written a few books already. They haven't been published yet, but they're ready to go in a sense. So um, book covers already designed, ISBNs, like they're ready to go. But timing is everything. So I'm waiting on a few things to come into play before I launch those books out there. Hint, hint. I'm putting a little tassel on the head, etc. Waiting on a
Yeah.
few things to happen. So ultimately, that's how I stay motivated. It takes myself to put myself and keep myself in a happy space because I can't depend on other people to make me happy.
Mm,
I'm responsible for my happiness and my own joy, and the things I like in life. I'm responsible for that first. So I keep away the negative energy, and if I see it, I try to avoid it as best as possible, or encourage that person to stay in a positive space because I'm responsible for my energy and I am what I receive. So
mhm.
if I deflect that negative energy very quickly and abruptly, I don't allow that to soak in. And the people say, well, you're dealing with traumatized victims, but that's not negative energy. So that's situational. And I can control that because as an empath, I'm allowing that person, I'm giving that person permission to actually dump on me. But when I'm talking about that involuntary submission, when people are just throwing stuff at you that you didn't ask for, that you didn't want to receive, see, that's
Right.
negative energy. And
Right.
you have to deflect that. But see,
Right.
that's a whole other conversation that people not gonna understand. And
Get what
we
you
gotta be
said. Get what
it's a
you
whole different
preaching.
ball game. It's a whole
You're
different ball
preaching.
game. But like I said, we control it. So that's how I keep myself motivated, is finding opportunities, one, to write. I enjoy writing. So and it's a source. So one thing channels the other. My program was built out to help people, which in turn funneled me to have cause and effect. Cause and effect. Cause is my program. My effect is my books. So I have a reason to actually write. I have a reason to put something on paper, and it's organic. It's not something that AI wrote or Chat GPT is some foolishness. No, no, no. This is organic, and it comes from my own self experiences in my own mind, and most of it is actually true stories. And these are, we have to replace the names and people. We can't put their actual, names and stuff in the books, but ultimately it allows people to understand the truth behind what we're doing. Uh, and when it comes to DEI,
I was just
I
gonna
got a
ask about that.
two-part question. When it comes to DEI and how that aligns, every person that I come into contact with is not always black. my audiences are naturally diverse because I don't see them as dark-skinned people. I see them as human beings. So whether
Mm,
it's Latin community, white kids, black kids, Asian kids, these kids, they don't see race. Mr.
they
King,
don't.
I'm a human being and I need help. That's how they look at me, and that's exactly how I look at them. A human being that needs help, that needs saving, that needs inspiration, needs motivation, needs guidance, and they're seeking it, they're asking for it. So when you're talking about equity, the value in just being a human being, excuse me, has value. Just existing, it has value. It has a stake in the game. Because some people ask, well, why are you helping them? Because they're human. That's all that they need to have a stake in the game is being of existence.
Hello.
And the fact that you are of existence, you deserve the opportunity and the right to actually exist and be equal to everyone and get the same treatment, the same resources. The fact that you are human is the only thing that matters. And to include them, honestly, equally amongst their peers. They deserve to stand, walk, eat, live, and thrive amongst society just as everybody else does and be seen as equal regardless of what their traumas are. So many times people judge based on their past traumas or you shouldn't do this because you were victimized by, and that's foolishness. It's straight. Don't let my past traumas be decisive on your future engagement with me. Case in point, because if we did that, we would hold everybody equally accountable. Because if that was the case, Donald Trump wouldn't be a candidate because his past traumas should stop him from being equitable in the state that he's in right now. He shouldn't be able to be there because if you ask any employer, would you hire somebody who was a former felon to
34
try to run?
count
They're going to
felon.
tell you no. They're not even going to interview you because you were a former felon. Doesn't make you that person today, but because of your past, whether it be relevant in 6 weeks, a month ago, a year ago, or 20 years ago. But if it is 20 years ago, they still hold you accountable today for something you did 20 years ago. This man is able to run for president, and he did this recently. So our society does have a double standard in how we view, how we treat people based on past traumas or choices. Because sometimes choices are self-inflicted, sometimes they're voluntary, but sometimes they're not. Innocent bystander, you're stuck. Wrong place, wrong time, and it's unfortunate. Things happen. But now you got an arrest record and it's a part of you. Because even those humans victimized at some point, they had to be booked. They had to be investigated to be found that their situation was either criminal or not. And now we have the rehabilitation side. Once law enforcement or judicial side seems that their case is not criminal, let's turn them over to the state. Let's get them rehabilitation care. Let's get them treatment. Let's get them back to society. It's a lot. So, it's a big answer. I try to sum it up, and it's a lot of different angles that can be taken. It's situational. So a lot comes into play with it all. But ultimately, here we go.
Yes. Well, thank you. Thank you for your response. Um, how can organizations do better at embracing equity and not just diversity in today's polarized society?
Mm, that's a big question. you trying to you trying to start some fires.
Oh Lord, I'm not trying to start no fire.
I mean,
Just some
so
tips. Just some tips.
I'll start with just saying, they can open their eyes. A lot of time these answers are sitting right there in front of their face. They have quality people that are already working for their companies. A lot of times they'll go outside instead of using the resource that are sitting right there at the desk.
Mm,
And when they do that, they don't even realize, and sometimes they do realize it's intentional, but you're going to actually demotivate the interior people because you went outside. And then you want to hold them accountable. Well, regardless of who we hire, you should perform your job well. I just had a conversation with my mother literally yesterday about understanding people's value. in the
Mm,
workplace. And a lot of employers don't value the people that they already hired. And I saw a reel about paying people the money that already work for you to do more jobs, then hiring somebody outside the company, train them, take them through the HR process. You actually save money by promoting somebody from within. It costs you more money because you have to go through the hiring process, screening applications, and all that to bring somebody from the outside, more so than just taking 20% and paying the person that's inside already. That you don't have to train, you don't have to go through the hiring process, but they don't see the value in
and
internal promotions. And that's part of the problem. And a lot of people find themselves job hunting because the company does not respect their value. And one thing
mm,
my grandfather always taught me is knowing your own value and go where you're loved. Do not
mm,
stay in it. Do not stay in an inflicted position or in a place where you become afflicted based
mm,
on work. It's hostile. Just to get up and go clock in, you know
mm,
you're walking into a hostile environment. A lot of
mm.
people, and they will stay in these places for dependency because they got to have the check. And they're fearful of not going to look for something better because of the interview process or
Mm.
because of the skin tone. And depending on the social standard of what we're dealing with in society, what's hype. And when DEI came out and it was a big thing, and when we had the George Floyd and all the lives that were taken that pushed the narrative, then yeah, hiring African American or dark skinned people was on a rise. But the minute they got an opportunity to step back from that and people start removing DEI from platforms, what did you see happening? People started getting fired or getting replaced by the people they really wanted in that position. So they really didn't respect your value in the first place. And that's a farce. So I would say to organizations, before you go look outside, look inside. And that applies to your own life. Before you go hire somebody, make sure you evaluate who you are first as an entrepreneur, as an employer, as a manager, as a supervisor, as a director, because you are accountable for anybody you allow in your company, in your space. And that's company as in personal space or company as in business structure. You're responsible for that person. So be accountable for all your choices.
Thank you for that answer. I really appreciate that. So, we're going to dive in a little bit about fashion and cultural influence. Your King Collection brand in fashion is unique, particularly with the exotic line of wooden bow ties. How does fashion play a role in shaping a person's identity, confidence, and influence?
Oh, you dug. Like for the record, y'all, she dug deep.
You did a little research. Did a little
She
research.
did her research. I understand, Dr. Watts. I ain't mad at you. She did her research. She understood the assignment. So the King Collection brand has evolved. Wooden bow ties is what we started with, um, and next year we've done the vetting process to basically elevate that platform. Um, and of course, it played a huge role simply because that's what the gentleman's course was built off of, the King brand. I was heavy in fashion. I was doing fashion weeks and fashion shows. I was personal shopping for celebs. I was, designing jackets, and it was a whole world of just fashion. And ultimately, it was the foundational stage that helped elevate and make me choose where I wanted to be. So now I moved into the gentleman's course space, building that brand, but that never put the King Collection brand at bay. It just it became I would say I took a pause from it to bring that back later. So now the King Collection brand will be relaunched as the Gentleman's Course brand, with its own collection of ties, uh, lapel pins, pocket squares, cuff links, etc., and being able to get those actually in full gift sets with full branding from the charity's perspective. And it's a fundraising opportunity. How we raise funds is by selling those products, as well. So those things are already in the works as we speak. I'm waiting on the first shipment to come in, of products. So it's going to be nice. I can't wait. Because people have always asked me, how can I get a tie that you're wearing? And because my ties are real nice, and they're like, oh, I want that, and it takes time, but it's coming. And it was like I said, it was a foundational piece for what inspired just personal representation and the importance of knowing what that means in every walk of life. Because one of the biggest statements that I despise is when people tell me they have to accept me for who I am. This is just me. This is me. And I look at them and I said, you cannot be serious right now. So you want to go in that room and ask them people for revenue for your brand and investment in you, and that is what you want to walk in with, that mindset, that attitude, that tone, that conversation. You want to take that in that room and expect them to say yes. I'm so confused right now. That is not how it works. People don't see the importance in the preservation of self and the presentation of self in everything that they're doing. So it becomes a problem. So, like I said, it was core and essential in the build out of what everything I have today stands on. Um, yeah, that part.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. How do you incorporate values of dignity and respect, which you emphasize in your human rights work, into your fashion brand and image consulting?
So when we educate anyone on human rights, just knowing what their human rights are, there are 30 of them, and we start with understanding equality. You asked about DEI, and this plays a crucial role because when you talk about Martin Luther King and his movement, he spoke on things that were promised to us for 2 decades. So this is the civil rights movement in the 60s. If you go back those 2 decades, that was when the United Nations was actually formed by Eleanor Roosevelt in 1945, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was signed in 1948. So you're talking about a document that covered the right to marriage. And when you have the LGBTQ community, they were fighting and arguing about, well, we have the right to marriage, and it doesn't matter who we want to marry. We should be able to marry who we want because that's our right. This is what they were talking about, something that was already guaranteed and promised by 192 countries that signed off on this, which also includes the right to trademark, copyright, the right to education about why schools are free, the right to social care and social standards, the right to all of it. The passports, the right to travel, the right to move, all these things that we have today. You can't say, well, pick some and then you don't get the rest. No. It all matters and it's all inclusive. So when you take those portions and you educate people, you're teaching them simply how to have self dignity, how to have self respect. But then take the advocates. We're advocating for those same things to protect and respect other people. So it's twofold. When you learn it, you learn self-respect. But when you advocate for it, you're fighting for the respect of all people, for humanity as a whole. And of course, having self-respect thrives you or pushes you to actually want to look good doing it. Same reason why women go buy blazers and business suits and brooches and make sure their hair is done. Men should do the same thing. That's why they have barbers and tailors. Don't just buy anything. If you have the affordability, make sure your clothes fit you properly. And you don't have to go buy $1,000 suit to make the difference because most standard cleaners does alterations. You can get a simple shirt, take it in. You don't have to buy a $700 tailor fitted shirt, custom made. No, buy it off the rack, take $20 and go to a tailor and have them take it in so it fits you perfectly. Same concept, less money. And that applies to everything. So when we're talking about dignity, it starts with yourself and respect. Before you can have other people, you can't demand respect from people if you don't respect yourself.
Uh-oh, you saying something now.
And most of us are moving without any self-respect or dignity. We're just outside, as they say. And that's a problem because, we outside? I need you to come back inside. Get yourself together and understand the assignment of what it takes to actually truly be outside. Because freedom is true where you don't have to do this and worry about being judged, or do this to worry about somebody ridiculing your choices, because the choices you're making are proper. You're going to be a good representation for your circle of people, business you associate with. All of it are going to say, he's doing a good job, or job well done. Even in our final days, we're going to have to answer to God. And he's going to say, job well done, fellow servant of the Lord. Or, you didn't do a good job. Answer to somebody else. We have to make sure we're good stewards of our craft and our work ethic and our ability to help people, being humane. It all matters in everything we do in life.
Amen to that. Okay. With your famous grandfather's legacy in music, what influence did he have on your passion for human rights and advocacy?
Well, I can tell most people already know BB had a passion for just helping people, period. He helped his family. He donated to schools, universities. He received numerous humanitarian awards and honorary doctorates himself, for his contributions to society and the music industry as a whole. People still sample his music. Education was huge for him. And one of the biggest lessons that I learned from my grandfather is something that I still preach today, is that education is the one thing nobody can take from you. So once you learn it, you build it. They can take what you built. You can lose it through a storm, a hurricane. They can destroy a building. They can hurt your business because you didn't do your taxes and stuff properly, or etc. Or somebody can break in and take your product, but they can never take away the knowledge that you learn. So if what that means is that if you built it once, you can build it again. So let's not cry over what's spilt, what's hurt, what's damaged, what was taken. Let's focus on, how do we rebuild? Where do we start? You already know where to start, because it starts right here in the mind. You have to commit. You have to commit to the process. You have to commit to the understanding and do the work. Because if you build it once, trust me, it's going to be so much easier to build it again, because you already have been down the road. You know exactly who to call, what doors to open, what channel to touch. He was influential in every aspect of my upbringing. He was my father, although he was my father's father. But I spent more time with him than I did my own father. So when it came to understanding what being a man was, or being a good businessman, I learned those from him and what it took, to stay focused. And of course, I was able to be around him while I was still in uniform. So being able to, you know, wear my dress blues and be at a BB King concert in Atlanta at Chastain Park, when he was in Georgia, when I was stationed there, he would bring me on stage and say, look, I'm like the president. I got my own Marine Guard and I was on duty. So, we had a mutual, I'm not going to say mutual, it was just a different type of respect and love for each other. And we cared for each other because he was still Papa for me. But I wasn't always in that space of knowing, the world knowing who I was. I was just a grandson. I was the Marine. And in the Marine Corps, they don't believe in celebrity status. They don't care about none of that. So
Nothing.
you a Marine.
In fact,
So
Christopher died on those yellow footprints. We don't know Christopher no more.
nope. You maggot. You the Lord of the boot. So wherever you come from was it, and they used to pull that on my head all the time. King, what you gonna do? You gonna call your granddaddy? You gonna swim back home? What you gonna do? He gonna come save you? It was tormenting for 3 grueling months, but ultimately it was strength building. So, as we always say, weakness and pain is just weakness leaving the body, and it made me stronger, and it helped me to be able to deal with still things I deal with today. So, on my jacket, I wear a lapel pin that says BB King on it, and I keep him with me no matter where I go. Yesterday, 2 days ago was his birthday, September 16th was his birthday. It was a hard day for me, but ultimately, I always celebrate my papa. Always.
Thank you so much for the answer. My final question for you for the interview, and then we could wrap this up. How should entrepreneurs prepare financially for scaling their business and kind of expanding operations? If you have any
Mm.
insight on that.
Man, I'm not giving them people no secrets. They look. They better hit my Instagram at the real
You
Christopher King
got great
and hire me. I need my money. I'm not what? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm just playing with y'all. How do they prepare financially? Honestly, so here's a trick. While you're pursuing your entrepreneurial endeavors, there is nothing wrong or embarrassing with having a day job, having a consistent source of income. This is the purpose. So no billionaire has ever built anything from nothing. So if you're unemployed, trying to be an entrepreneur, you're going nowhere fast. You have to still stabilize yourself. So you fix your credit, make sure you have stable income while you're pursuing your endeavors. So I don't care if you got to work in a call center making 17, 20 bucks an hour, you go get that job and you work while you're pushing through. Because if you fix your credit and you will pursue entrepreneurship with an 800 plus Beacon score, trust me, you just opened up so many more doors for yourself with banks, financial institutions. They want to work with you because you got great credit. And then if you understand how to manage that, you believe in my first and favorite, OPM, other people's money. Your
point.
your job pays for your livelihood, but your investment comes from other people. You're using other people's money to build out your entrepreneurship goals and dreams. And if you're not doing OPM, you're doing it wrong. And I hear a lot of people saying, well, fix your credit, go get a credit line and build out your business. Look, everybody has a method and way they want to teach you, but it's different when you can come up with platforms and you're not using your credit to get loans to fund your business, but you're building out your platform to get investments. These are different. It's a different angle, a different conversation when people invest in you. They're not looking for you to pay back in terms on 30 years or 5 years or 4 years. No. This is a whole different conversation. They're investing in a return later, years down the line for growth, and they want a residual check and let you thrive with them while they grow. So they may want to reinvest. It's a whole different conversation, but a lot of people don't understand that. They want you to build your credit to go get back in debt. I will never teach nobody to fix their credit to go back in debt to build their company. No,
Hmm.
that's backwards. You fix your credit to build your proposal, establish your foundation to seek investment opportunities. And there are investment grants in startup companies. Well, I'm talking $250,000, $1 million. They invest in startup companies. You have to build out your platform properly, structurize it, make it presentable for the market. And then at some point, IPO, you go public, put yourself out there, investments roll in. And guess what you don't have? Loans,
Mm.
interest rates. Somebody who's sitting behind a desk, well, you didn't make your payment this month, I'm gonna shut you down. They're gonna take the credit card. They're gonna tear you up apart hand by hand. Like I said, there's many coaches out there that's going to instruct people on how to build out your business and start an LLC and get an S corp or a C corp and blah 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 blah. So many different ways. There's no one way to win. There's multiple ways to win. You can have a trust, formulate LLCs, have the LLCs buy the properties. That's one pathway. It's not the only way, but you're protecting your assets from personal harm. But there's so many different pathways to success. And the first thing I tell people, invest in yourself first. The knowledge, understand the process, commit to the process. That way, if you mess it up, you can fix it. But if you're just hiring people to do stuff for you, you're going nowhere fast because you have no accountability.
Okay. All right. So, two more things before we close out. The
Go.
first is there anything that you learned in your generation that you wish you could tell the generation before you and that you could still advise the generation after you? And also, what initiatives did you want to talk about before we closed out?
Well, ultimately, so that old "I wish they knew what I knew now" back message, right?
Hmm.
Man, look, don't be afraid to take risks, but make sure the risk you take are progressive to actually move your life forward. Don't take stupid risks. Take vetted, systematic risks, calculative. Everyone don't understand what that means, but you have to think about your choices before you make them, because they all have reactions. They have cause and effect, and you're always going to be the cause. This is why you're doing it. It's for me. It's for myself. But that choice you're making is going to go left or right, and you got to make sure that that result puts you on the path to where you want to be and where you foresee yourself in the future. And I tell kids in the 6th and 7th grade, 5th grade, right now, I tell kids every week, you have to start now making those proper decisions. I teach young men, don't tell me you're not mature when you can start maturing now. So while you're in my classroom, you will act very mature. You're going to understand the science behind making proper choices. When people say, well, it's just a kid, foolishness, then tell me why you got youth 16 with doctorates. The youngest student right now that has a doctorate degree, they went to school and actually got it and did the work, 17 years old, has a
Wow.
doctorate completed and has a company and a business built out.
Wow.
So ultimately, let's focus on growth. And I mean, I don't have any real topics. They can follow me on the social media. The Real Christopher King is my Instagram. It's branded, so you Google The Real Christopher King, spelt like the dictionary. You'll find everything you need to find for me on all platforms.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. It's been an honor to have you here and speak about all of the things that you spoke about today. So I thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. I was honored to be the guest. I can't wait to come back on your show again and we can have some conversations that's not just interviewing me. But let's talk about some real topics that's going on in the world and really dig in and make some people
Yes,
feel uncomfortable about some topics. You know, I like that kind of conversation.
yes. Oh, I'm down for that. Yes, well, thank you so much. And that's it. Thank you for everyone who tuned in today.
All right, y'all. That's a wrap. Thank you for having me. See you soon.